Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I have here a clear example of lying. Lying by interpretation. We have the evidence. I know Agence France-Presse has the evidence. It just chooses to ignore it and give the interpretation of something else, ignoring the evidence. Therefore, I can reach whatever conclusion I want if I ignore part of the evidence and I use only a few pieces of information that I want to obviously make my point. This is how you start with these guys. You start with a narrative. They say, okay, this is the conclusion. They start with the conclusion, which is going to be our narrative. With conclusion, and they will provide you the evidence they want, ignoring the ones that would run against the narrative they want to create. So here it is, Agence France-Presse. I used to think that these Western countries, were different than the communists, but no. You know why? Because they're made out of humans. I was about to say man, humans. So let me show you this article here. So Agence France-Presse on August 17th, 2023. Listen to this headline. Ukraine port ship reaches Istanbul despite Russian blockade. Do you know of any Russian blockade? There's no Russian blockade. So let me read you a little bit more here. A civilian cargo ship sailing from Ukraine reached Istanbul on Thursday in defiance of Moscow blockade that sent tensions soaring after Russia opened fire on a Turkish-owned ship. Okay, well, let's unpack this lie. So, the title first, right? Ukraine port ship reached Istanbul despite Russian blockade. Now, do you know? Let's get the information Agence France-Presse doesn't want to use in its title. Russia has a blockade? Yeah? Well, I'll tell you what Russia had. Russia used to say, you know what? We provide safety corridor to the ships coming and going and getting grain from Ukrainian ports and deliver it to wherever on this planet. That's what they did. The Russians said, but in order for us to have you send your shit out and get money for it, we need something in return. What was that? And they supposedly, according to Russians, and not only, you can check it as two parts. One, Ukrainian grain, Russian fertilizer and products, including some sanctions being erased, and access to the Russian banks on SWIFT, the banks that use grain and fertilizer. That did not happen for 1 year. So after 1 year of being dry, the Russians said, you know what, we're not going to be suckers anymore. Everybody was like, oy vey, let me break my... Okay, that's what they did. And the Russians said, you know what, it's not a blockade. They said, we're not going to provide protection anymore for the corridor. But we're not going to... This is what we're going to do. We're going to treat whomever we want going towards the ports in Ukraine, not coming from the ports of Ukraine like this ship that these guys are in defiance. Some ships going to pick up grain, they said, we're going to check them out for military equipment that might take over there. That means taking weapons to the Ukrainians. So the Russians said, we're going to inspect, because we want so, each and every ship we want to see if they have any military cargo. That's the blockade. And after they inspect it, they let them go. That's the blockade. Agence France-Presse is lying about it. It conflates, inflates, fuckflates, everything. And the Russians, they mentioned defiance. The Russians said, we don't give up about the grain coming out of Ukraine. We care only about the ships going into Ukraine, possibly having military cargo. Are you dumb, Agence France-Presse? Yeah, I think so. I don't think they're dumb. I think they're just dishonest, and it's Agence France-Presse. And now what happened with the Turkish ship, which was in the Black Sea under a Palau flag? It had a crew of Turks. And they were told by the Russian military, because they can, hey, stop the fucking thing, we come to inspect, so you don't bring weapons. And the guys failed to obey. Failed because the Russians had no authority. At this point, that's a different story. The Russians are at war, so they will do whatever they want over there. But there's no blockade. I would like to super emphasize. So they went over there, dropped some people, some military with the helicopters. The Ukrainians lied, said no, they didn't, but they did. I made a video showing the footage of that. They inspected the cargo ship and they let it go towards Ukraine. It didn't have any military cargo. Went to Ukraine, pick up grain, it's gonna go wherever it needs to go. So the Russians have no problem with those guys leaving Ukraine with grain towards where the rest of the world. And there's no blockade. They will do this. We will inspect. And if there's no military cargo, which, I mean, it makes sense, we're gonna let it go. Why? Because we can. Like US can have military personnel and army, about 900 in independent country and sovereign country of Syria. Why? Because they can, okay? So I eliminated that thing. Oh, the Russians are bad. If the Russians are bad for doing that, what are the other guys? Is US at war? Will they fight the war on terrorism? Oh, really? So if I fight the war on terrorism or a war on, let's say, cockroaches, can I come into your house without you inviting me over there, barge in, sit on your couch, eat and drink your food and drink and beers and fight the cockroaches? Am I entitled without being invited in your house? Of course not. So this is just to stop the idiot arguments, okay? So the Russians do not have a blockade in effect. They will check certain ships, not all of them. I don't think you can check them all. They don't have the potential. They don't have how many ships go over there. I don't think they have so many vessels. How many do they have? 10? There's more than 10 going over there. But anyway, they will inspect that. Why? Because they can. They are at war with those guys. And they don't want those guys to get armed to destroy them for their unprovoked invasion, okay? Let's put it this way. So that's the point. Agence France-Presse is a fucking liar. That's what they are. Okay? By what? By omitting evidence and creating a narrative. And how look at this masturbation they have here. In defiance of Moscow's blockade. If the Russians want to blockade, they will blockade. You know how? They will shoot at 2 or 3 vessels. And nobody will pass through. So they know, like, okay, we're not going to stop. The Turkish thing did not stop. The Palau ship did not stop. And what happened? They stopped it. So, my friends, these guys, and it's not, a guy like me saying things. It's Agence France-Presse with history. When I used to be in Romania, in the communist countries, when it was a communist country, well, socialist with a communist government, because it was not a communist country, it was a socialist country. They were mentioning Agence France-Presse as, oh my god, like BBC. Bullshit. Okay? The same weasels are just a little bit better than CNN, MSNBC, Fox News and others. That's true. But still. And how I told you, I think the story how BBC blew it for me. I can remember it was in 2005, 2004, 2001, 2003, something like this. I got my little nail on some recordings of BBC reporting the first atomic drop by the Americans on a civilian city, killing about what? 100 and some thousand people in an instant, but hey, that's not a war crime whatsoever. And I remember how the BBC reported it. I think I still have the recording. I don't find it on YouTube. And they said that the United States dropped an atomic bomb over military installations in Hiroshima. There were military installations and it dropped an atomic bomb. That's what they said. Even now, they say, we dropped over the factories of Mitsubishi. That was in Mitsubishi, whatever it was then. I think it was Mitsubishi in Nagasaki. Yeah, you dropped it, an atomic bomb, and destroyed the whole city. Good job. Like you have a splinter in your finger and I cut the whole arm and I solved the problem because of that splinter. Man, let's don't play dumb here, okay? So here, Agence France-Presse, no, there's no blockade, and no, there's no defiance on anybody. If the Russians wanted to stop this little bullshit ship, they would have been able to. Believe me. they had the means, and if they wanted it, they went after that drone by Crimean Peninsula. It's an American drone. What do you think they will stop short from stopping a stupid commercial vessel? Are you crazy? I mean, go around the block a few times, not even a few times, halfway around the block, and you realize that's why how stupid these guys are, how liars these guys are. Now, look at this. That's why these guys here can be told anything those guys want because they haven't been around the block. They don't know shit, but they're very opinionated, and they go and vote. That's even worse. That's exactly how the things work. You got the mass media, which someone said this is the school of the adults. If you remember that guy, okay? He said media is the school of the adults. They teach the adults how to think and what to think about certain things. And that's true. But you shouldn't believe everything these guys are telling you. I mean, tomorrow they tell you that this is black, you're going to believe it. These guys will. If they just make the point that actually you don't see it right, and maybe this one identifies as black. How about that? And you gotta respect that. If you don't respect that, you lose your job. Therefore, no food for your children. Very good. How do you call that? Is that the economic genocide? No. Why? Based on ideology, because you disagree with someone. That's where we are heading straight. We are there, but not, So here you have to put up with these guys. And if you don't know anything about it, and you read Agence France-Presse, as most weasels do, they will say, yeah, man, yeah, give me the beer bump, chest bump, yeah, give me 5, boom. Yeah, we did it, man. See those Ruskies. You're a dumbass. You don't know shit about anything. Anyway, like us. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.